hey. Hello, everybody. It's Friday. Yay. Yes, TGIF. And who do we have here? We have Dr. Amo Raju OBE DL. And for those of you who do not know what that means, that is that he's a recent King's honoree for the fantastic work he does in championing the cause for disability. And he's been working on the whole DEI conundrum for a very long time. He can teach me a thing or two. And then is that deputy lieutenant? Is that what was it, DL?
Yeah, Deputy Lieutenant to the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire. That's very
wow. Wow. Welcome. I'm in eminent company. And then he's an author himself. You see me here, I'm holding on to my book, guys. I'm like, it's a new day for me. I'm excited about my new book, which has gone up to #1 and on Amazon, and the paperback is out now. But guess what? I'm in the company of another author here. And listen, walk like a man. Love it. Welcome.
You can probably see a copy in the background, a little shameless plug.
Shameless? Listen, have you seen my background?
Oh yeah, actually, no. I bow down to you.
You've got to showcase your work. What is the point? Listen, I am a Christian, and one of the things in the Bible says, you must not hide your light under a bushel.
True that.
Yes?
Yeah.
I don't know what is the equivalent to that in the Quran. But
no, I'm a Sikh, so
you're a Sikh. What's your equivalent?
The Shri Guru Granth Sahib has probably got lots of passages in there, which is probably something similar. But
yes.
I can't recite one off on.
Well, you're a naughty Sikh.
Listen. I have no problem shouting about myself. I'm shameless on social media now. In the last year, I'm all over the place on social media, and so I will learn from you. I will get a big banner made.
Yes. Listen, let me tell you, and you know why? And I tell people this: it's not about, oh, look at me, this is how great I am. It is about getting an opportunity to be positioned in the place that you can do what you need to do to work out your purpose in life.
Yeah.
We are here for a reason. We're positioned for a reason. We have our giftings and talents for a reason. And it is to do exactly what you are doing, Dr. Amo. So tell us about yourself.
Well, Bernie, I'm a disabled person.
Yes.
I have a condition affecting the right side of my body called cerebral palsy diplegia, and so since birth I know no other life apart from that of a disabled person, and I'm from an immigrant background. My parents arrived in this country within a couple of years I was born, so they faced a double challenge: one, assimilating into a country where they didn't fully understand the language and the culture, but then having a disabled child to try and navigate their way through the system to ensure that I had all the opportunities.
Yes.
Now I mean, today I'm married. I've got children and grandchildren, which is a sign of success. But
congratulations! Yes,
thank you very much. But the truth is, my journey is quite a story, which is why we wrote the book a couple of years ago. But and the reason being that for the first, I would say for the first 30 to 40 years of my life, I had a secret that I didn't share with anyone. Not even my wife knew this, and it was only a few weeks before lockdown that I decided to come out with this secret. The secret being that for 30 years I've been going for secret therapy sessions. I was in deep depression, having bouts of depression. And people often say, were you depressed because you were disabled?
Yes.
And it wasn't. It was the root of my depression was because of the reaction to my disability, the reaction by society, and often by my immediate environment.
That's what I was going to ask you when you mentioned about being born disabled and your parents moving here and that double challenge. It kind of for me prompted the question about disability and the BAME community. Within the BAME community, the challenges there. So I'm thinking that's where you're heading with this. Talk to me about that.
Well, yeah, that's what we kind of focused on in the book. In that
Yeah.
the South Asian community is in almost medieval in its approach to what disabled people can do and should be doing or could be doing. It's got a very backwards kind of a view, and I'll give you one extract from the book. As about there was an incident that happened on the in the news. It hit the news about 15, so maybe 20 years ago. I can't remember when it was.
Yes.
There was an England football manager who
Yeah.
made a comment saying that disabled people are suffering because of something they did in their past life, and so they're reincarnated with a disability as a punishment for something they did in their last life.
A football manager said that.
Yeah. An England football manager said. Now, the English FA did the right thing by suspending him, and then I can't remember if he was sacked or whether he resigned, but there was outroar in the media about it at the time,
And quite rightly so.
Yeah, and you and I are intelligent to know that that isn't the case. But I was sitting in a room full of elderly South Asian elders who were watching the news, and they were saying, "What's all this about?" And I explained it to them, and they said, "Yeah, well, he was right. Why was what's all the he was right? And they pointed at you. You obviously did something wrong in your last life, and it's." And I had a bit of a giggle because I thought I'm not going to persuade these guys. It's in their DNA. They're indoctrinated by a viewpoint. But that's the kind of attitude I was growing up with. That isn't he brave? What a shame! What a tragedy!
Yes.
And the other example I'll give you is at the age of 10, 11 years old. I was at home watching a children's TV program, and I was surrounded by a room full of aunties, as I used to call them. My mum's friends came round.
Yes, that's the same in our culture as well. Everybody's auntie.
So all the aunties came round, and they weren't related to me. They were just called aunties. Yeah, and my mum goes into the kitchen to make some tea. And these aunties decided to have a conversation in Punjabi about me right while I was there. And the subject of the conversation was, well, isn't it a shame no one's going to marry him? Who's going to give them their daughter? Who's going to give him their daughter? I was basically written off there. And I thought, I was only, 9, 10, 11 years old. And suddenly marriage was on the table. And I was having to think, what does this mean? No one's going to marry me, and I'm going to be single for my life. And it was those kind of viewpoints that
in your subconscious.
Yeah.
So how did that affect you? Did it have the expected effect, or did it make you feel like you want to rise up and in protest to that?
No, I just carried on with an expectation that I wasn't going to be married then. Wow. I just thought, well, okay, if these guys and everybody around me is thinking this must be the case, well, maybe people like me are meant to be married. And
when did that change?
Well, yeah. I mean, see, the thing is, I kept it quiet, and then around the age of 11, 12, and I went to senior school, as we used to call it then. I was a brilliant student. I was a grade A student, and then 3 little girls decided to bully me for my because I had a different walk. And that was when I first became conscious of the fact that I'm a disabled guy. Nobody had ever treated me differently. My friends, my immediate friends, didn't. I was in a mainstream school, so I was surrounded by non-disabled children, and that's when I suddenly went down. I lost all my confidence. I went from being a grade A student to pretty mediocre, and I never told them. I did tell the teacher, and the teacher just laughed it off. Said, "Look, you better get used to this. This is the kind of attitude you're going to get in your life." In today, those children and their parents would have been called up, and you may even gone to safeguarding. So things could have happened today, but in those days, in the 70s and 80s, it was a different story.
Yes, although I must say, though, Amo, I know there is a lot of good work that has been done around bullying to protect and safeguard children, but I also hear of a lot of situations that things are actually slipping through the net. Absolutely. Nonetheless, despite all of that, because the thing is, if the provisions and all of those various conditions that are set are only as potent as the people who are willing to actually enforce, monitor, reward, and manage the people. Let's not talk about punishing, but managing behaviors. And if we're not doing that, it's just in a drawer, in a box. So before we came online, we were chatting, weren't we? And we talked about this ticking of the boxes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you tick the box and you think, okay, I've done it. Let's just stick it in a drawer now, and let's get on with what really matters in life. So go back. I just thought I'd just interject that, but continue, because what you're saying.
Yeah, and then so I left school with less than average grades, if I'm honest with you.
From an A student.
Yeah, and then something happened to me. I left school and I went to college, and I overnight changed as a person, because those bullies who didn't follow me, they'd gone to their own journeys, whatever they were going to do, and I flipped the coin. I became a loud and proud. I rebelled, and I did what other teenagers do. I went and joined a band. I couldn't sing to save my life, but I became the lead singer.
Wow!
You're going to laugh at this one, Bernie. I got a record contract. For the next 7 to 8 years, I toured the UK with a band, and we had records out. And
you need to put that out. Tell us about it. Is it still? Can we find it?
Oh yeah. It's all in the book. But
I can't wait to get my copy of the book.
The interesting thing is, just moving the clock forward. I mean, I was mediocre. I wasn't number one in anything, but it was.
You're on the charts.
Yeah, I suddenly found my reason to be.
Yes.
I was on stage having the time of my life, and nobody was looking at my disability. They just thought, and I became a pretty good singer. I must admit, I could sing.
There is a saying, though, Amo, that everyone can sing. They just need to be taught how to sing. You have a voice, and you can train your voice. So,
Well, it's one of those things. I didn't take any training. I just screamed in the bathroom a few times, and before I realized it, I think I could hold a tune. So yeah. I mean, moving forward, in 2007, I went back into the studio. I thought, one track, I'm going to do it. One track, and I recorded a song. And I was pleased with it. I thought, this is all right. I can still do it. I've still got it. I can still do it. Anyway, the chap who recorded it, who is now one of the biggest record producers, in the world now. He is actually, in terms of banger music. The chap who produced it, he went and sent it to a record company, and they put it as number one in their the compilation album, and the record guy rang me. He goes, I want to buy it off you. And I thought, you want to buy this track off me? Well, really? Because nobody had ever paid me before. I thought, wow, okay. So in my stupidity, in my naivety, I sold it him. I go on here then, give me a few £100.
And how much has he gone on to make?
Probably made a lot of money out of it because it really became a big success. The track is even today, you know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at a wedding, and the DJ played it on the dance floor. It was played. It was, and the thing is, half the audience doesn't even know it's me singing.
Wow. Well, there you go. There you go. You see that, guys? So what is this telling us? What is this telling us? What it's telling us is that doesn't matter how you start, doesn't matter about your seen or unseen disabilities, it doesn't matter about your struggles, and actually sometimes despite ourselves, it doesn't matter even how we perceive ourselves. It's about having a go. It's about giving. You have no idea where it's going to end up. So, you know, and that is it. You're representing. Representation is key. And when I look at you, you know, a Sikh, disabled, somebody who's had mental health challenges, somebody who's been bullied, been written off, been told that their life really is a punishment as opposed to a blessing, for you to sit here as a King's Honoree, Deputy Lieutenant for Derbyshire, an author of an incredible piece of work, which has, you know, seen so much take up and has been blessing so many lives, that is testament to the fact that we've got to look at diversity, equality, and inclusion with new eyes. We've got to understand that there's so much in the diverse representations that we have that we lose if we don't encourage it. So tell me, you know, because when we were talking before, you know, we talked about a couple of things, and representation. Give me your views on that, and your work in that.
Well, I mean, yes. So since 1994, I've been involved in this charity called Disability Direct. It literally just opened its doors when I started. Yes. And it was all about support services for disabled people, and it's great. I mean, I took over the reins in '97 as CEO, yes. And it's now a big force in terms of yes. Disabled people services. But one of my recent missions is about representation, because mm-hmm. when you and I were growing up, you know, we didn't have those role models around us or on TV. I didn't see any brown disabled people in the mm-hmm. limelight. I didn't even see any white disabled people on TV. So I couldn't look at anyone and say, well, that person's doing it, maybe I've got a chance.
Yes.
I didn't see that. And so one of the things in my you know, I'm in my 50s now, and my mission now and my board of trustees is so progressive and forward thinking. They're saying, well, your success story needs to be out there.
Yes.
You know, the charity is stable. It's doing what it's doing. We want you to push the story mm-hmm. out now to the next few generations.
So you can make more Amo Rajus. You are at a stage now where you need to self-replicate, because it's now the legacies, what you're leaving behind to carry that torch. Wow.
And the thing is, since my book's come out to nearly year and a half ago, the amount of disabled people, both white, brown, black, of all backgrounds, the amount that have come forward and said, what you went through in the 70s and 80s, we're still going through now.
Wow.
It tells you the work that still needs to be done.
No, honestly, Amo, I have a young man that was the first person, I don't know if you got a chance to see his LinkedIn Live, and his name is Tom Gullick.
Right.
I first saw him at the Institute of Directors Awards in Newport, ICC. He got a rousing standing ovation. He's visually impaired. He also is neurodiverse, and he also was obese. He had over 30 stone of weight. But what he said to me about many things. He went through the depression thing, near suicidal. But what he said to me that reinforces what you've just said is this. He qualified, he got his degree for 6 years as a white young man. You'd think, we think he's only baying people, have difficulty getting jobs. For 6 years, he sent out thousands of applications. He didn't get one job. And one of the things that one of the potential employers said to him was, you're going to be too much trouble, more trouble than it's actually worth, because of all the risk that's involved in employing you. Somebody actually said that to him. He's only 28 years old. So this is now we're talking about. So you're talking about what you went through in the 70s. And he said it was a job where he was going to be answering the phones. Just sat. Well, anyway, he is a Princess Trust ambassador, and he is a visually impaired graphic designer. Excellent. Who's launched a platform to showcase other sight-disabled graphic creatives. Yes? So you need to connect with him. Because
and this is the whole thing, Bernie. There's the talent that's out there. There's so many examples of people doing fantastic things, but you've hit the nail on the head. There's still the attitudes of society, of employers, of service providers is still in its. They still seem to think along the lines of ticking a box, and I've always said you can spend £100,000 on fixing the physical access in your building. You can put ramps in at the front, you can put a lift into it, but if the receptionist at the front door has got a bad attitude towards disability, you've wasted every single penny. And this is what's wrong. People are they're not engaging enough. They're not talking. I want people to come forward and say, talk to me about disability. Some people are still embarrassed or afraid to ask.
That's why I'm so glad you're coming to my conference in September. Guys, he will be there September 18th. He will be there, share, and we all are going to be there to learn, to give and to take. It's not, everything's, the reciprocity is important. So we're going to go to give and go to take and build. But you said something about representation, and it reminded me of Levi Roots, Levi Roots, yes. And I remember I had the privilege of hearing him speak. He spoke at the launch of the Welsh Government Accelerator Program sometime in 2021. I was one of the business coaches on that. And he said when he was growing up in Brixton, he didn't see any body that looked like him, that was doing anything that he could look up to. And then you said that just now, I remembered what he said. So he's made it his mission to go out and about so people like him can see that they can do it, and he does a lot of incredible work. But when you're talking about the people at the reception, is that the microaggressions. Talk to me about that.
Oh, look, the microaggressions I know it's a newish term that's been bandied about now, but it's been happening for decades as far as I'm concerned. There's racism, there's ignorance, there's direct racism, and then there's ignorance. I think what's equally, if not more, damaging and dangerous is the potential of microaggressions. And that's normally people saying things, thinking that it's not directly being racist. It's just, well, I didn't know you could say that. I didn't know that this is going to offend a culture or offend you as an individual.
Give us some examples of microaggressions. So nobody who leaves this talk will be able to say that again, that they have no idea.
Well, I mean, it's about expecting.
I know one of them. Let me start you off. So while you're thinking, I know one of them is one of them for me is going up to a black woman and thinking that it's okay for you to put your hand on her and touch her hair.
Yeah. and And that is a brilliant example that it's, you know, it's, and it's the same with disabled people. Microaggressions are, well, if you're in a wheelchair, I can lean on your wheelchair while I'm talking to you.
Oh,
What they don't realize is that's invading somebody's personal space.
and it's
That,
condescending.
yeah, it is. It's incredible. And it's the same within, you know, vein communities too. But I'll make a point which some people may be alarmed to hear. You know, they are both ways. You know, microaggressions can be both ways. I've sat in rooms with people from South Asian communities who are pretty racist in terms of how they view the outside world. And I think, well, you know, within the South Asian community, there is something called the caste system. I'm sure you've heard of
Yes,
it.
I've heard of it.
In the South, in the caste system, there's this big thing about a certain caste. Songs are written about this caste, that we are the best caste, and people from this caste can do this, and people from this caste can do that. And I'm not going to mention it. People who know it will know what I'm on about. But
Yeah.
I've said, and I referenced it in the book as well, I said, these are the same people that when they hear, if you know, Radio 1 started playing a song saying white people are the best, they'd be the first to say, what's right? That's wrong. That's racist. They can't be doing that. But they don't look at themselves as to what they're promoting.
Do you know, I thank you actually for introducing this, and you know, I know it can be a bit controversial, especially coming from us about our own, but I say the same as well about, you know, the Black African people of African origin. You know, we tend to have ways of separating ourselves. You know, there's colorism, there is class system. It's not set within the framework as distinct as it is with the South Asians, but it's unspoken. If you're from a certain, you know, background, if you're from a certain family, if you are of a certain color, if you have certain ethnic origins mixed in with your blackness, then that makes you a little bit more important because you have a bit of something else in you. And all of these things happen, and we have got to first look at ourselves. You are so right.
Absolutely. And I think this is what's wrong with society in general. We're too busy looking at everybody else and saying what's wrong. We need to look in the mirror. And going back to representation, that's something I have a real bee in my bonnet about, in terms of getting companies to look at the conversation around representation. You know, the amount of times I've been approached to sit on a board of trustees or join a board of directors for a new company. And I always look at the makeup of that company before I consider it. And if they are all white people, and if they are mainly non-disabled people, then part of my brain starts thinking, what am I doing here? Am I ticking a box? Are you calling me because you've recognized there's something wrong? But I always say to every business, because I also have my own business consultancy company where a lot of companies approach me and they talk about DEI.
What's the name of your company?
It's Amo Raju and Associates, really, Limited, and it's kind of I mainly mentor I've got about 7 or 8 CEOs that I'm mentoring at any one time. And one of the things I always say is look in the mirror yourself and then put a mirror to your company. Are you truly reflecting the community or the customer that you wish to serve? Not that you are serving, but that you wish to serve. If you only want to serve white people, then you don't need to think about diversity. If that is your mission as a business. But if you truly want to attract the whole community around you, the whole customer base around you, then if all your staff and all your board of directors are of a certain persuasion or of a certain belief or of a certain look, then you're not going to get that customer. Because
honestly,
people now, you know, when they go, they don't just say, oh, there's a new shop open on the high street. They go and Google it. and then they go and say, what's the makeup, what's their ethics around the children now, quite rightly, go into a little bit more detail than you and I would have done when we were going to go shopping.
Yeah. Honestly, you're saying some things there. It's like you're dropping gold. You just spitting diamonds out, And one of the things that you said, the first thing you said about the mirror, put a mirror to yourself. In my other book, Your Business, Your Way, that is the whole essence of that book, about how you run your business. And it's got to be first coming to terms with who you are.
Yeah.
And then, is your business reflecting that?
Yeah.
It's building your business culture around that, recruiting around that, managing, monitoring, recognize, giving recognition and promotion around that. Because at the end of the day, if your business, if the head of the business and the business are not cohesive and not truly reflected, then it's like you have schizophrenia going on. You're going out and you're showing yourself to be one thing, and then when people come into face to face with your product or services, the people who represent you, it's completely different. So you and I are on, the same. I just love what I hear you saying, because that comes right into the whole diversity, realm. Probably that is why, because that's where I started my whole recognition of, when I started to really understand what life's all about and business is all about. So naturally, I guess that's why it's led me down the DEI path, because you can't do one without the other.
No, yeah, and as a child, I remember my parents saying to me, look at the best of everybody around you and copy, mimic, and then adapt those best attitudes.
Because that's the thing. The thing is, that's it. But you know what's going to happen? You won't be copying, you won't be mimicking, It is that you're going to start pulling it out of yourself. Anything in people that you actually look up to, and that thing resonates with you, and you think you want to be like, believe me, it's there. That's why it's resonating with you.
Let me
pull it out of yourself.
If you have got those kind of attributes, as my ex-boss sadly passed away last year, and he was a white person in a wheelchair. He was the one that started the charity. He was Disability Direct, and he went and set up. Now he came from a very white middle class background.
Yes.
And he said to me, because I in a conversation with him, I said to him, Richard, why did you set up Disability Direct in an inner city area where it was primarily Black and South Asian people living there? Yes. He said, and it was very simple. He goes, if I went and set up in a mainly in white area, then I would have been making the same mistake that every other charity makes when they say, well, we can't reach those communities. They don't come to us. Because I know A, there's a transport problem, B, there's sometimes a language problem, and B, if we are on the high street in their face constantly, they can't miss us.
Yeah, it's putting yourself where.
Absolutely. And the amount of times, Bernie, you will probably get this as well. The amount of times you and I will be approached by people and say, you know what, we just can't attract Black customers. We can't attract disabled customers. What are we doing wrong? I'll tell you what you're doing wrong.
I have got to say, and I was going to give that example, and of when you talked about people inviting you in, and you think, is this really genuine? And I was going to give an example of Public Services Ombudsman for Wales, and as one of the organizations that definitely were not ticking the box when they chose me. I was invited to go through the application process to join the advisory panel. I was, as an independent member, I am the first Black woman to be brought onto the panel. And, there would naturally be, from other people's point of view, that, oh, yes, they've stuck Bernie there now to tick a box. But first of all, it's how they got to make that request of me, because they had me in to train all of their team. Yes. So it was the first thing. So they rarely wanted to make a change. Every people at a high level, everybody that was dealing with the teams and dealing with the end users were there. The participation was genuine. The feedback afterwards and the follow-up was genuine. That led to them saying, you know what? Yes, what she's saying, it looks like we really can use this to make a change. And I was brought on last year. I actually started in February. In that time, since my training, and now they have changed their website. They have rebranded. They've changed the people that are on the website, the visuals. They have changed the language of the website to make themselves more accessible. They've done so many things. They've gone out on social. They've put themselves out there as a big body that actually oversees all of the public sector in Wales, including the Welsh government. They thought it's important to come to the people, get into the social media, all of those things. So they're genuinely, so I have to say, in defense, there are people out there who are genuinely doing it. We just need more of them.
We can pick out sincerity. It's very easily visible.
Yes.
And I've got all the time in the world for organizations that they're sincere and their heart's in the right place and they've got an action plan, and more importantly they've got money behind it, because the amount of times they will then also find organizations that say we want to do this but we haven't got a budget.
Yeah. Well, you will meet the ombudsman at my event, because they're going to be also they have a stand, and they're going to, and the ombudsman herself, Michelle Morris, is going to be speaking in the morning.
Oh, wonderful.
So you will meet her. Yes. So yes. And in terms of representation, Transport for Wales have actually sponsored the representation zone at the conference, because they are putting their money and they're positioning themselves. So just to back up what you're saying, because guys, we're not coming online saying we have all the answers. And, as I said in my book, I'm not here sat in my glasses, peering over, pointing my DEI finger at you who must learn. No, what it is we're just bringing these things to the fore, but we're also highlighting that, we are not writing the whole story. We're just joining in. Other people are doing it. So go on, Amo, go on. I'll just talk forever.
No, look, the thing is, you're right. That a lot of the time, the talent is out there. The formula, the equations are already out there. The companies just need a little bit of a nudge in terms of getting them done. What's going on at the moment? Well, it's been going on for the last 10 or so years. When austerity hit back in 2008, 2009, and the banking crisis happened, and everyone had to make cuts. What you saw was every company, whether it was local authority, public, private, and voluntary sector, they slashed their DEI budget because they thought that's not an essential for us. So you've got a whole generation of people that haven't had proper training and support, and the infrastructure hasn't been there to keep companies, keep that argument going strongly and that conversation going strongly in companies. So there is even more need now, as we have a double, triple dip in the economy that we're in at the moment. There's even more now need for people to have conversations. We're so fortunate we have social media where people can go and research what needs to be done, and companies don't necessarily need to call a trainer in all the time. They can. It's a good thing that they do, but there's a lot of conversations that can be had just on social media about, oh look, I've got this problem. How can I deal with it?
And that is one of the reasons that inspired the conference as well, because there are so many, of people like you and everybody that are doing stuff that are going to be there on the day, and all these what's happening within the zones, and we're going to be putting together with the help of NatWest, because I'm a part of their DEI task force, to put together a report and a working paper. So that's another resource tool which you're going to have online, as well as my book. Gotta plug it, guys. It's on Amazon. It's in there. And a lot of work and a lot of research. Come on, get it and read it. Yeah, and read Walk Like a Man.
Yes, please do. Yeah,
Tell them about the new edition coming out.
We're just working on a second edition now. No change to the direct content, just to give a more fresh cover and just to share some of the
closer to so we can see it, Amo. Putting it closer so we can actually see it.
Bring it forward.
Yeah. There we go. Wow.
This is the hardback. There's a hardback version, paperback, and Kindle.
Wow.
And it's available across the world apparently. I've not kept tabs on how it's doing in the rest of the world, but it's doing well. And the thing is, as I said, there's a whole generation of disabled people that I get, honest to God, Bernie, you probably do this as well. I get emails on a weekly basis or messages through social media on a weekly basis saying, I've just read your book. Thank you. Somebody has just written my story without realizing, and
how does that make you feel?
Well, it's lovely. It's lovely. I'm really happy, that they've bought the book and they've enjoyed it. So, as an author, and I'll give credit to Manny here, who's a co-author who helped me here. But so as somebody, as an artist author, that's a really kind of great kind of feedback to have. But I also feel sad, and I'll tell you why I feel sad is that this is still happening. This is still happening out there. There are a whole generation. We had disability legislation passed in 1995, and we've had 2012 Paralympics where the whole of the UK was going crazy. I say, wasn't it great? Look what disabled people can achieve. And you think there's a legacy that's come out of there, but there's nothing, because disabled people are still suffering. They're still facing this injustice. I was part of and I'll send you this, Bernie, as well. I was just part of a report that was been put together to look at disabled people and BAME communities and COVID and how it affected those communities. And it won't be a surprise to you that to learn that 60% of those who passed away from COVID were disabled people.
Can you see the comments? Sorry to.
I can't see any comments. No.
Hang on. All right. Let me. Did you see that Louise Moss says, "And long may you continue to rebel, Amo." Yes, and who else now? Let's see what this other one. Dom Reese Jones says the music is good. Amo is being modest.
Oh gosh.
Yes, and Dom, and then he also says the charity does amazing work. Proud to work alongside Amo and be a part of his amazing journey.
Dom's one of my trustees, so he's going to support.
Oh, is he? Oh,
good on you, Dom, and thank you, Louise, too. You're amazing, both of you.
Awesome.
Look, the thing is, it as I said, it's great, but the sadness is there in that there's disabled people still facing injustice. This report that came out about COVID, the amount of disabled people from BAME communities they were doubly disadvantaged in terms of getting the communication to them, and there's this ignorance that was coming out at the time. That can you remember the issue around about vaccinations and the hoo-ha on the TV saying that South Asian communities and the Black communities aren't coming forward.
I know. I actually got interviewed on ITV about that. And to my mind, at the time I thought, okay, it's an opportunity for me to speak my truth.
Yeah.
But I also felt that it was setting us up to be under attack. And I'm not so sure about the veracity of it, if we were any more resistant to it than our white counterparts, to be honest.
Yeah, there was definitely that, and I totally agree with you that. And the issue that I was particularly concerned about was that, the NHS, and they do some great work, and I don't want it to become an NHS bashing session, but the NHS fell victim of relying on a national approach to try and persuade local people to be vaccinated, when there was so much misinformation going out around the efficacy of those vaccinations. And the traditional route is to roll out Lenny Henry and Mira Sayal to on TV to say go get vaccinated, which is great, and they're great individuals. But the people that we speak to on a weekly basis in our communities, they need to see local people getting that message to them, and that's not what wasn't happening. And these infrastructures are very weak at a local level in terms of getting a message out. Now, I took a phone call from the local authority. As you know, carers were one of the first cohorts vaccinated. The local authority rang me on a Friday night and said, we want to get carers vaccinated as a priority. Now, one of the projects I run has, thousands of carers listed in our service, and so we had access to them, to their data. By Monday morning, probably we'd reached 700 people to be vaccinated right away, and that shows you the ability of local expertise, local charities, bringing in local organizations, and that's where a trick that's being missed by a lot of organizations. They seem to go to a national body and say, well, we'll put a TV advert out, and that's ticked a box. We've done our bit as far as communities or certain cohorts are concerned, and that is not the way to do things. You've got
for my part, they interviewed me because I did not take the vaccine. I would not take the vaccine because of my own personal risk factors, my own medical condition. You see, there are hidden disabilities that
oh gosh, don't start me on that.
There are hidden disabilities, so I did not take it.
Well, look, the thing is, and that's everybody's right. And again, more information needed to be given about that particular issue as well. It was just this crazy drive that everybody must be vaccinated without a lot of supportive information. And the rounds on WhatsApps that were going on at the time, the amount of misinformation that was going out on WhatsApp was very dangerous. But just that point you made about hidden disabilities, Bernie, that's a big thing for me. And I've got this thing, and again, I'll revert back to my late boss, Richard Shaw, who's a white disabled person in a wheelchair. And he said to me, because when I started there, I was a very angry, hurted, mentally exhausted young person. And Richard said to me, he goes, I can see something in you. And I want to channel that, harness it, and get it out to the wider masses. And he goes, one of the things that we need to do through you, Amo, is to show that disabled people are not just a white person in a wheelchair, because in all the media that was going on at the time, even now,
that is powerful.
And even now, the disability image is a white wheelchair symbol. And that says a lot. 92% of disabled people do not use a wheelchair. That's 92%.
That is it. And so the thing is, though there might have been those who watched the program and thought, oh, well, whatever, my interview and so on. But what they don't understand is when I got COVID in the end. The pain and the suffering, the mental pain, because I'm thinking, well, I could not take the vaccine. So any minute now, when am I going to need to be blue lighted out of here? When I go to my bed, is this tonight? So COVID for me was the mental trauma of that, for the person who could not get the vaccine. And people are not sympathetic to you, and I survived it. And let's just say I didn't get a second interview to say I survived it.
well, I do know other people who haven't taken any vaccine and they're still doing well. I'm not a medical expert, so I won't say
No,
yeah or
I
nay.
know.
But again, it's a personal choice, Bernie. And
Yeah,
we
well, for me,
we
it
live in
wasn't
a,
a choice. For me, I couldn't take it, and bless him, my husband. Oh my gosh, he's just a treasure. He said in support of me, he's not going to take it either.
yeah,
Because I couldn't take it, and so we both were in that vulnerable situation.
yeah, yeah.
We both caught it at the same time. I caught it first and I gave it to him. But thank God we survived it. So what I'm saying is not everybody who hasn't taken it is somebody who is an anti-vaxxer, a conspiracy theorist or anything. And so we need to look at the way we make assumptions about people,
Yeah.
you know. It is,
Assumption.
yeah,
It's a dangerous kind of viewpoint, an assumption.
yeah.
The amount of assumptions that will lead to disaster. It's all around us in our workplace, in our personal lives, and the amount of people that will not talk and just assume, and when they don't assume, when they don't talk, then they're led down their own path to a wrong conclusion, and this is where we've got this media now that we need to take advantage of, and people talking as much as possible. I didn't talk. I'm guilty of this myself. For 30 years, I didn't talk. I'm not cured from my depression. I still dip into,
You manage it. You manage
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I call it a relationship with depression now.
We have, just to tell you now, Amo, we have 9 minutes left, and so I'd like you to just now focus on the key messages that you would like to leave us with. I really want you to. This is your moment now. Some key messages, and also how people can interact with you and what you're doing.
Well, the key messages for me are around whether you are an individual or whether you are working for a company or a boss of a company or whatever your role in life is. You're walking down the street or you're sitting in your office. Go and talk to that disabled person and learn their story. 9 times out of 10, most disabled people will comfortably talk about what's going on in their life and how the world is affecting them. And by being with them, they learn. You're learning a lot, and you're indirectly getting a masterclass in disability equality training.
Yes,
that is so important. And one of the other messages I want to push across is the importance of therapy and mental health. As a male, one of the reasons I never told anybody because I was a leader, I was a CEO of a company. What would the world think if this disability leader was considered weak, mentally weak? How would my own staff interact with me? How would my family interact with me? I'm the eldest child, so I still have this kind of fatherly overview of my siblings. Forget my children, but my siblings as well. And what would they think of me if they thought this guy's quite weak as well? So I kept it secret. And my key thing now for men particularly, and I have this thing about men, we don't talk enough. And another thing that I've said openly in the book, and this is not being sexist in any way, but when two women meet, they they dive straight into what's going on in their mind. What's affected them. Two blokes will sit in a pub or in any environment. The first thing they'll talk about is the football score or how many drinks they drank last week, because that's the testosterone that needs to come out of their system. And I always say, and I've said it in the book, what's wrong with two men starting a conversation with, guess what's peeing me off?
Yeah.
That's still manly. There's still pretty something macho about that. And before you realize it, you started talking about what's annoying you, and you're having therapy with your mates, and we just don't do that enough, and that's something that's really important. And I do it now, and I had some of my friends when we have a beer now, they end up doing it as well. I don't think It's not because they've read the book, but I think they know that this is where Amo is fixed now.
So you know what you must check out this young man from our region. He's called Dan Stanley, and he has an organization called Better Men.
Okay.
Yes, and he focuses a lot, and he deals with high-level CEOs, people like yourself, that are struggling with depression, who can't talk about what they're going through. And he does, every now and again, he does these walks, right, where they go out on some, like not Bear Grylls, but mountain hikes, and with men, and just challenge themselves and challenge themselves to talk and to be their emotions. Dan Stanley, he has a book as well. Can't remember the name of his book. It might be Better Men. But look, Dan Stanley, Better Men. That there's a resonance there.
Certainly. Well, this is it. This is it, and I think it's about. I just want that's my message, to try and keep people talking, men talking, and before you realize, because in this country, in the UK particularly, therapy is a swear word almost. If you go across the pond to the USA, it's culture there. Therapy is
part of the course. Everybody talks about it.
Over here, it's not. I physically felt the benefits of therapy, sitting down and having this person who ended up becoming a bit of a friend eventually, and just talking to her regularly, and be, just kind of letting it out and not being judged, and I wasn't looking for advice. And as you read in the book, sometimes she lost it with me because I was losing it. But it was, I think it's important that we just keep talking as a society.
Yes. Oh, this is so good. Guys, I can't believe, this hour has just flown by, but that's what happens when you're having fun. I hope you guys have had as much fun as we've had.
Absolutely.
It's been great getting to know more about you, Dr. Amo Raju. You are incredible. You are a trend setter. You are a disruptive thinker.
Keep going.
I'm telling you. Yeah, keep going. I keep going. No, seriously. You are a legacy maker. Yes. And all of these things I'm calling you, what made you this? It is not giving up. It is not believing the declarations about yourself, the negative declarations about yourself, which came from the closest people to you. And it also came out of a care and concern for you. Yeah. So there's a message in that, guys. Be careful of the voices. In fact, that's in my other book. Yeah, I'm telling you, be careful of the voices that you listen to. And some of them is the closest ones to you because they're trying to keep you safe. Absolutely. We're not here to be safe in that way. We're not here. We're here to take that plunge, to free fall. How about free falling into our destiny? How about taking that leap? And how about us being the ones that are there to help each other along the way and to be the wind beneath each other's wings? That's what true diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like. It is bringing together all these very many sectors, these very many conditions, these very many disabilities hidden or visible, these very many excluding idiosyncrasies that we have, and making and finding our way through creating allyship, good allyship, making allies, being allies. Because we go together, as I say in this book, or not at all. Thank you so much, Amor. You are incredible. I cannot wait to see you on the 18th. Well, I'm going to see you the day before because we're coming down before in advance. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Guys, get in touch with Dr. Amor. Buy that book. Yes. And buy my book.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. See
All
you around.
right. Bye bye.